Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Packers Unscripted from Packers.com. I am Mike Spofford, joined, as always, by my trusted colleague, Wes Hodkowitz. We're coming to you here from our studios at Lambeau Field. Wes, to discuss a rough one, 22-16 overtime loss to Chicago on Saturday night at Soldier Field. I don't know how exactly to break this down, and we got a lot of ground to cover in this show because with Thursday being the holiday this week, we're actually kind of doing a 2-for-1 here. We're going to do one show this week, review the last game, preview the next one, get it all in right here in one episode. But, man, Malik Willis balled out. The defense had a tremendous debut, sort of the debut without Micah Parsons for 2025. And then it just all unraveled in the last few minutes, and a lot of really, really good work and a lot of really good football by the Packers just went by the wayside.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Green Bay, this has just been a story that we've heard at various times this season where the Packers have played really good football for 2.5 or 3 quarters, and then a game just gets away from them, right? That's what happened with Cleveland. To a certain extent, that's what happened with Carolina. When you look at the game against Denver, things are tracking in the right direction midway through early in the third quarter, and then things fall apart. So number of levels to look at this. First and foremost, I do tip my cap to the Chicago Bears. You have to show that respect. That is a very talented football team. It's not an accident that they take away the football the way that they do. Their physicality. I thought the alignment on the onside kick that they recovered was tremendous. The kick by Santos was great. Santos was maybe the MVP of this game with how he handled those conditions, giving the Bears a shot to stay within arm's reach of Green Bay. But from the Packers standpoint, it was this, multiple issues that all flared up for them in the fourth quarter. Execution, alignment, mistakes that led to a really devastating loss. When you look at a game in which, Michael, the Packers move ahead 16-6 with 5:03 left in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
I don't think anybody was packing in the bags at all, but with Chicago sitting on 2 timeouts at that point, you're thinking to yourself, okay, the Packers just got to keep playing the way they have here for the first 55 minutes, and they'll be able to get out of Chicago with a huge victory and kind of in control of their own destiny as it relates to the division. And it doesn't happen. Caleb Williams made some magnificent throws. The Packers made some key errors, some key breakdowns. Unfortunately, defensively, as good as they were, there were some explosives late. And again, you look at what Caleb Williams did, and Packers they get Brenton Cox Jr. directly in front of Williams, a free rusher, 4th and 4.
Yep.
And Williams makes a tremendous throw to Walker, and
it's on a coverage bust.
Bust.
It's a great throw and a great catch, but it's a much, much tougher catch to make if it's contested with a defender also in the corner. And there was the miscommunication, whatever it is that happened with the Packers' 2 corners there, Hobbs and Nixon. They both went with one receiver, and they left the second receiver open. But that, again, as you said, that's just one of a litany of mistakes. I mean, I think the most depressing thing about this loss, not only did it put the Chicago Bears in complete control of the NFC North now with a 1.5 game lead over Green Bay with 2 games to go, but that the way things had unfolded, everything that the Packers had gone through the previous week, you lose Micah Parsons. You're going into this game without Zach Tom and without Evan Williams, and you're making all of these adjustments, and then you lose Jordan Love to the concussion in the second quarter, and Malik Willis comes in, and he's moving the team, and yeah, they're failing in the red zone, but they're putting points on the board. The defense is staying in control. Everything that you're dealing with, all this adversity, that the Packers are looking like they have overcome it, and they are on the verge of what was going to be the most significant and most uplifting victory of the entire season, hands down. And then in sort of a blink of an eye, it turns from that into the most devastating loss of the season because of how it unfolds. There's in my opinion, there's never any loss in this league more frustrating than when you lose because you don't recover an onside kick, right? Because you give the other team back-to-back possessions, and the Bears took advantage of that, got the points they needed to get the game to overtime, and once it got to overtime, it was anybody's game. And Malik Willis, unfortunately, his tremendous performance in those conditions, coming off the bench. He's hardly played this year aside from that one drive against the New York Giants. His wonderful performance is ruined by the fumbled snap on 4th and 1 in overtime. Just, there was something that happened in every phase along the way that contributed to it. And now it's just all about, okay, it's another big pile of adversity in front of you, right? Can the Packers plow through it? Can they overcome it? Yep. They still can make the playoffs with one more victory or one loss by the Detroit Lions. They still could win the division with 2 wins and 2 losses by the Bears, which is not out of the realm of possibility given that the Bears are playing a red-hot 49ers team coming up this week. But the bottom line is the Packers are fighting for their playoff lives. They will be facing a team on Saturday night at Lambeau Field doing exactly the same thing, and the Baltimore Ravens fighting for their playoff lives. Can the Packers overcome yet another snowball in the face of adversity that they have that they have run into in these last couple of weeks?
It was like an ice, it's like an ice ball of adversity, right?
Yeah.
Listen, so. Well, first and foremost, I wish I should have just brought in a printed out sheet of paper. I wish I could just read your reply to one of the questions from Insider Inbox on Monday asking about, everything that happened, who to blame, basically. And
everybody wants somebody to blame, and they want it to be simple. They want it to say it's this guy's fault. It's Romeo Doubs' fault, or it's Josh Jacobs' fault because he fumbled inside the 5-yard line, or it's the coach's fault, or this or that. And you can't try to simplify it. If you try to simplify it, you're doing the whole situation an injustice. Yep. That was essentially the point I was trying to make.
And what I love though, and I want to talk about Jordan Love here in a second too, but what I love about this game is that it articulates some lingering issues for Green Bay, but it also showed again, the Packers have not been blown out by any opponent this year. They've played with everybody. This team, whether Micah Parsons is on the field, Tucker Kraft, Devontae Wyatt, all these guys, whether they're there or not, the Packers can compete with anybody. And it's why, should they make it to the playoffs here, and I know the percentage chances are very high, but should they make it, they need to get that last little tick to get that spot.
Yeah.
The Packers are a formidable opponent for anybody that they're going to face. This is what I like about it. They're going to have a chance. When they use that analogy about, they have the pen, they write their own story. That's never been more true. The issues that they've had, the games that they've lost this season, they're going to have a chance to rectify all that. And if they don't, their season will be over.
Right.
Either by the end of the regular season or in the postseason. The Packers control all of this still. Yeah, the division's out of hand, but the fact is that, out of their hand, I should say. It's not controllable. But the Packers have been able to face the Philadelphia Eagles, the Denver Broncos, the Bears twice. They beat the Lions twice. And they can do it. They definitely can do it. The maddening part about it is that they find themselves in this situation that they're in because of the times in which they haven't produced. And that's been red zone. That's been untimely turnovers. It's been not taking the ball away when they've had opportunities, something they did very well last season. And that's why we go into this game at Baltimore on Saturday night with the stakes being what they are. The Packers have to figure out here, and it's going to be fascinating to watch down the stretch now. Okay, you guys they did not punt in this game. Second time this season, they've lost the game in which they haven't punted.
Yeah.
And I saw there was a stat from somebody. The other 8 teams that have done that this year, they're 8-0. Okay, and there were turnovers. There were other things that...
And the Packers have had one game where they only had one punt, and they also lost that game.
Yeah. But what stinks is that the Josh Jacobs fumble. Talk about that. Tough play, right?
Yeah.
The Bears get the ball. The Packers give up one run, and then the defense holds them. They have to punt. and the Packers are able to come back. The Packers go for it, 4th and goal on their first possession. Don't get it.
4th and 1 on the 7,
4th and
actually.
1,
but
sorry,
yes, yeah.
Don't get it. Bears go all the way down the field. They go for it on 4th down. Don't get it. There was so much, sudden change and adversity defense and different things that played a factor into Green Bay having the lead that they did. It was just a shame to see that fall apart late. And then obviously the onside kick giving the Bears second life. There's just, in the last few days that I've been just trying to encapsulate this in my mind, and the fact that the Lions end up losing as well to the Steelers. So
yeah,
it all sort of ended up being a push, so to speak, other than the fact of the division ramifications of that loss. It's a weird thing. And to watch Malik Willis go back out there, throw the ball really well. I thought that was one of his best performances in terms of just naturally throwing the football. In addition to creating some plays with his feet too.
That touchdown pass to Romeo Doubs was an absolute beauty.
Total dime.
And it was a play that he canned to that route at the line of scrimmage. He saw the defense, made that adjustment on the fly and then put the ball right on the money. That was sort of what made up for the Josh Jacobs fumble, because then the Packers did get the touchdown on their next drive to go ahead by 10 points, et cetera, et cetera. It still felt like, all right, they're in good shape here, but at the end of the day, you still look back at going 0 for 5 in the red zone, and how many points did you leave out there?
The frustrating thing about that too is, in the last time that they settled for the field goal with McManus, that was the Packers. Yes, you want to get the touchdown, but they just needed points at that point.
Yeah, you're trying to just make it a 2-score game again. Absolutely.
That's what you're looking for.
Absolutely.
But to still start the game where it's turnover on downs and then 2 more field goals, and you're, for the second straight week, you're looking at a 6-0 lead. When people do this thing and fans do this thing of, we should take the points. Well, the problem with taking the points, especially in a 4th and 1 where you have a chance to convert and then still have the goal to go opportunity.
Yeah.
The problem with taking those points in that situation is, if you do that twice, not only did you end up basically fumbling away a touchdown, you don't get the extra point either. So that's why teams do this. It's just, it comes down to execution. The Packers didn't have enough of it. In many ways, they did what they had to do to win this game, but ultimately, when it came down to it, this is why the Bears won.
Yeah, and I want to shift gears to the Ravens, and we need to talk about what the Packers need to do to get back on the winning track and get things going in the right direction again. But, when I look back at these last 2 games, as the Packers have gone from 9-3-1 and looking like, okay, if you're really rolling here, you've got a shot maybe even at the number 1 seed in the NFC, et cetera, et cetera. But now you've lost 2 games in a row, both of which you had 2-score leads in the second half on the road. You let them get away. So you've gone from 9-3-1 to 9-5-1. Whether you want, you can talk about the injuries in game, during the week, whatever, and all this other stuff that the Packers have had to overcome. The single biggest reason the Packers have lost these last 2 games is because they're 1 for 9 in the red zone.
Yeah.
There is nothing else to point to, because for everything, the injuries and some turnovers and this and that and the onside kick, whatever, the opportunities that they have let get away on offense, the points they have left out there by going only 1 for 9, only 1 touchdown in their last 9 trips into the red zone, that is why they have lost 2 games in a row. And I don't care if next Saturday night's opponent is the Baltimore Ravens or the UW-Platteville Pioneers. The Packers have to figure out how to get the ball back into the end zone, because prior to the Denver game, Green Bay was number 2 in the league in red zone offensive conversions.
Yep.
Number 2 in the league. And in 2 weeks, they have gone from 2nd in the league in red zone offense to 14th. They have gone from one of the best teams in the league to the middle of the pack in a span of 2 games. That is the biggest thing that needs to change for the Packers to get this thing back going in the right direction.
Yeah, no, you're 1,000% right. And the fact that they still are number 1 in 3rd down offense, despite facing a really good 3rd down defense in Denver, that's been the situational components of this game is where ultimately all that execution is what leads to points or lack thereof. In the last few weeks, there just hasn't been enough of it. Josh Jacobs has been banged up. Romeo Doubs had a couple quiet performances. He's typically been one of the huge red zone targets. The Packers have had all these injuries, specifically at the tight end position that they've been working through. So there's been adversity that they've faced, but at the end of the day, you still have to find a way to punch that thing in. If I may, before we go over to the Ravens too, I have to say, the other tragedy of this game is that Green Bay had to finish it without Jordan Love.
Yeah.
And that's a huge shift, right? And when you're talking about where Green Bay was, trying to find its rhythm, kind of like it was against the Giants last month, and then you take number 10 out because of Austin Booker's hit, and we can get into that or not get into that. That's up to you. But the fact is that for the Packers to put in a quarterback like Malik Willis, he has to go in that situation cold, having thrown 5 passes this whole season, whatever it was, and runs the offense that efficiently. The guy is just absolutely cold-blooded, right? His temperament is exactly like Jordan Love's, just no flinch, doesn't blink, and looks for that opportunity. I always say this. It goes back to that playoff game in Arizona for me in 2015 where you had the Janis Hail Mary, so many things happen, and then the Packers lose it on an explosive play to Larry Fitzgerald.
Yep.
This is one of those games that when I was in the locker room afterwards, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense how this game played out. Because even the hero, Romeo Doubs, who had 4 catches for 51 yards in the first quarter alone to get the offense moving, has that beautiful over-the-shoulder touchdown from Malik Willis. Then, unfortunately, he has the issue there on the onside kick. Nothing lined up narrative-wise of how it should have, how it felt like it should have in this game, and the Packers ended up with a loss.
I'm going to say one more thing to backtrack on something, and I'm going to make this comment in Insider Inbox as well, because you and I are hearing it a lot from people who keep going back to that opening drive of the game, 4th and 1 on the 7. You're on the road, just take the points and whatever. And I understand the argument, and I'm not saying that it's totally clear cut what you do, but when you go all the way back to the beginning of the game and you say, well, if the Packers had those 3 points, they would have won, or this and that. It's like that decision. If the Packers kick the field goal there to go up 3-0, if the Bears are in that same, if the score is 3-0, maybe Ben Johnson kicks the field goal as well and ties the game 3-3.
There's a butterfly effect
instead of going for it. Exactly. So, Johnson probably goes for it on 4th and 1 still on the Wildcat snap to Kyle Monungai, but if he doesn't, and because the Packers are up 3-0, if he's like, all right, I'm just going to kick the field goal, get the game tied after 1 possession each and keep playing, well, then 3-3 is the same as 0-0. So you can't sit there and say that not taking the points on the opening drive of the game decided something somehow, because it didn't. There were still 53 minutes left of football to play after that. So I just you have to step back and look at everything from the big picture and not focus on one decision that was so early in the game that it would have had this massive effect on how everything else had played out. So I just wanted to say that.
That's great. Yeah.
But before I get lost in this 2-for-1 episode and we shift gears here to the Baltimore Ravens, I want to make sure we pay some bills. So let's hear a quick word from our sponsors. Sirius XM NFL Radio delivers hard-hitting analysis and up-to-the-minute NFL news that true football fanatics need 24/7, 365. At Cousin Subs, we have something for everyone, like our Wisconsin cheese curds, mac and cheese, golden fries, and creamy shakes, all paired with your favorite sub or sub in a bowl. Cousin Subs, 50-plus years of better. Pit Boss Grills, the official grill of Packers tailgating at Lambeau or at your house. Take your game day to the next level with a Pit Boss wood pellet grill. Pit Boss Grills available at Menards. Hey Packers fans, we always knew Lambeau Field was a wonder, but now it's official. Learn more about all the wonders of Wisconsin at travelwisconsin.com/wonders. Welcome back to Packers Unscripted. All right, Wes. Saturday night, Lambeau Field. Yet another Saturday night's all right for fighting in the NFL. The Baltimore Ravens, they're coming off of a very frustrating loss on their part. Sunday Night Football, they lose at home to the New England Patriots after leading 24-13 in the fourth quarter. Wasn't exactly the same type of collapse that the Packers suffered, but nonetheless, a tough loss for the Ravens that has now dropped them to 7-8. They are 2 games behind the Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC North. The Steelers sitting at 9-6 after a very helpful win, a win that helped Green Bay with Steelers and Aaron Rodgers knocking off the Detroit Lions at Ford Field. So the Ravens are up against it. And as we go into this not knowing, and at the time we're taping this episode, we haven't really gotten an update on where Jordan Love is with the concussion protocol, where Malik Willis is with his shoulder that got hurt on the sack on the final play of regulation before overtime at Soldier Field. The Ravens also lost Lamar Jackson to a bruised back in the Sunday night game against New England. Tyler Huntley came in and finished that game. So for both teams here, things very much up in the air in terms of where things are at with the quarterback position. And quite frankly, we may not know a whole heck of a lot for either team until 90 minutes before kickoff on Saturday. I mean, who knows here?
Yeah, it's probably the biggest question mark I think I've ever seen on my time of the beat as it relates to both football teams heading into a game with their backup quarterbacks, because it's not just Love and Lamar Jackson, right? It is the Malik Willis component to this too, injuring his shoulder there at the end of regulation. And kudos to him playing through it, had the 31-yard completion to Jaden Reed, really toughed it out for a Packers team at that point does not have an emergency quarterback available. Clayton Tune's on practice squad, so it's not like they could have activated anybody else. It's the Baltimore game is going to be fascinating for a couple reasons. One, this is a team that has been a total world beater at times this year. Again, much like Green Bay, feels like they can play with anybody, beat anybody. But defensively have had their struggles this season. Lamar Jackson has had his injuries, and they've had to slowly adapt. I think the one thing that's been cool to see from an outside looking in, and I wrote about this in Insider Inbox, I think Tyler Huntley fits exactly what they do really well. I've never understood why he hasn't just been anointed the Doug Peterson backup there.
I totally agree with you.
When he left for Cleveland, it's not like he went and signed a 1-year, $10 million deal. He left for like $1.5 million. Like, I think in his career, Tyler Huntley's made like $7 million for like 5 seasons. He has gone to a Pro Bowl though too. I have to throw that in there. Pro Bowl. Micah Parsons, congrats.
Yeah.
But the fact is that they have all the type of talent to compete. I mean, Derrick Henry is still a force. When you saw the statistic this week, his another 12 touchdown rushing year for him, over 1,200 yards receiving. They just extended Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, a tough ending to that game against the Patriots, but the fact is he's a 1,000-yard receiver for them. He's become their wide receiver one that they've been searching for so long to run alongside Lamar Jackson. So this is not easy. This is not going to be a fun game here for Green Bay, regardless of who's at quarterback. And John Harbaugh's as savvy as they come as far as National Football League head coaches. So a supreme challenge for Green Bay, but at the end of the day, this is an opponent that the Packers have to get past to get to their goals. They have not executed in these intra-conference games as well as they did last season, right, against the AFC. They have to win this football game. Yeah,
absolutely. The thing that stood out to me watching, and I did watch a fair amount of the Sunday night game with when the Ravens lost to the Patriots, because you and I had talked about it earlier in the season on the show, the other implications that we follow, and this just hasn't been the typical Baltimore Ravens defense that we've been used to seeing. But what stood out to me as the Patriots were making the fourth quarter comeback, because they were up again, 24-13 on the road. The Patriots were kind of up against it there, and they're fighting with the Broncos for the 1 seed in the AFC and all of that. As the Ravens defense kind of crumbled in the fourth quarter, they were getting pressure on Drake May, the Patriots quarterback. They were getting pressure on him consistently, and May just kept delivering against that pressure, because the Ravens' coverage could not hold up, and they even caught a break when, the guy on the deep ball just gets tackled and they don't even throw the pass interference flag. I mean, that was just a horrible defensive coverage play, and they got away with it. But this Ravens team has had coverage issues, and they seem to have found something. They lost Matabuike to the neck injury earlier in the year. Their defense took a step back from a pass rush standpoint. It seems that pass rush has started to find something a little bit more lately. Whether it's going to be Love or Willis under center on Saturday night, the Packers have to be ready for that kind of pressure and to be able to deliver from the quarterback position under pressure. But the opportunities will be there because the Ravens have not been a great coverage team downfield, and that's where the Packers are going to have to take advantage.
It is. The statistics for the Ravens are really something else to look at, because if you just look at total yards and total passing, and even to some extent points allowed, not good. It's been a rough year for them. But they're 13th against the run. They're 7th on third downs. They're 6th in red zone. They're 4th in goal to go. And as you said, I mean, they generate, I think their pass rush numbers and their pressure numbers have been better in the second half of the season than they were early on, which has allowed them to kind of recompose themselves a little bit. But this is a game, and this is an opponent that the Packers have to be able to throw against, whether it's Jordan Love or whether it is Malik Willis under center. The Packers have to be able to move the ball downfield against this team.
Yeah.
When you think about how Green Bay was able to get off, for 2 seconds, don't think about how those games ended, but think about the starts that they got off to against both Denver and Chicago.
Yeah.
It was steadily moving the football and then hitting on explosive plays when they were coverage breakdowns. That was especially true in the Broncos game until Vance Joseph's defense kind of corrected some stuff in the second half.
Right.
When there's those opportunities, you have to be able to turn those into points. And that last week, I mean, who knows what that score is? Who knows how things go for Green Bay if that can play doesn't happen, if Romeo Doubs doesn't catch that touchdown pass. That's what broke it up there for the time in which it did. So the Ravens have been going through it, especially with their secondary right now. Really good defenders, though. When you look at Roquan Smith as the Mike of that defense, they have edge rushers that aren't household names, but are respectable. But it's, can you move the ball the way you need to against this particular unit? I think that's going to be critical, especially with the questions now with both Josh Jacobs, some of the injuries he's been dealing with, and the fact that at the time in which they're taping this, the Packers only have one healthy tight end on the roster in Luke Musgrave.
Right. The Packers lose John Fitzpatrick to an Achilles injury. Josh Wiley missed the last game because of a concussion. We'll see where he's at in the protocol as this week unfolds, if there will be another tight end to join Musgrave, or if they'll have to elevate somebody from the practice squad or sign somebody. Josh Jacobs' last carry was the fumble inside the 5-yard line. He'd been, obviously dealing with the knee injury and everything, and then the way things unfolded, Emmanuel Wilson was running the ball really, really well, and it just felt like Ben Simmons and, the running backs coach and Matt LaFleur just decided to ride the hot hand there. I don't think a lot of people are wondering, did they bench Josh Jacobs because of the fumble? That doesn't seem to be the case. It wasn't a case of a doghouse situation there because of the fumble. It's that Jacobs isn't healthy and Wilson was doing well. So stick with the guy who was producing.
Not to interrupt, I apologize, but remember a week earlier, Emmanuel Wilson only had 2 carries against Denver after he had the viral illness the day before the game.
Yeah, he went into the game sick. Yeah.
So
exactly.
he was healthy. Basically, he was their only healthy option in the backfield. As it relates to the injury report, Chris Brooks was dealing with the chest injury too, playing through that, and they didn't elevate Pierre Strong to the roster, didn't sign him to the roster. It had to sort of be the Emmanuel Wilson show.
Yeah. Well, all right. Let's get right into it here as far as the keys to victory for the Packers. I'm going to start, and I'm not going to go back into another monologue with regard to finishing drives, but that is what is at the top of the list here is the Packers have to start getting the ball back into the end zone when they're in the red zone instead of settling for field goals or putting themselves in 4th downs where you're deciding, do you go for it, do you kick, et cetera, et cetera. But the other thing I will say, and I'll say this, whether it's Lamar Jackson or Snoop Huntley as the quarterback for the Ravens, defensively, the game plan needs to be pretty similar to what it was against Caleb Williams, which is you've got to keep these guys in the pocket. You have to make them try to beat you from the pocket, not get outside where they have the threat with their legs, where they get a broader view of the field to be able to gash you with throws when they're asking the coverage to hold up for 5 or 6 seconds, and somebody's going to break free. So the containing the quarterback in the pocket, whichever quarterback it is for Baltimore, to me is another one at the top of the list of keys to victory.
Yeah, Green Bay has to do a better job of that than they did against Chicago. By and large, they were able to contain Caleb Williams.
I thought there were a couple of drives where they let him get out, and he made him pay.
That's when he threw the ball so dang well.
Yep.
And there was a couple that he made late that I give him credit for, that he put the ball in there from the pocket. But when you talk about how he built a rhythm, it was everything you and I talked about coming off the first game. Him rolling out, particularly rolling right. It's almost like remember when Jordan Love gets the hop in his step sometimes when he's in the pocket, you're like, okay, this guy's going to unfurl one here.
Yeah.
That's what it kind of looks like when Caleb Williams kind of is able to get out, escape the pressure, allow the plays to develop. I agree with you. And when you say finish drives, I talk about finishing games. I think when you look at the Packers and the Baltimore Ravens both coming up short last week, it's because they didn't finish games. And they both didn't finish games without their starting quarterback. That sucks. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But you still have to find a way forward. And they let it go. So whoever finishes this game better, whoever plays well in the fourth quarter, regardless of what happens in the first 3 quarters, that's who's going to be who prevails. I'll also say the Packers need to protect your quarterback, whether it's Love, whether it's Willis. You got to keep that thing clean for them. When you look at the big plays the last few weeks in which the defense has sort of capitalized on Green Bay, it's when the quarterback's been under pressure. And then unfortunately also Willis getting banged up a little bit at the end of regulation. You got to keep that thing clean. Baltimore has a diverse pass rush. I don't think they have a guy on the roster with more than 3.5 sacks. They are going to throw it in waves, and they're going to try to simulate those pressures. They're going to try to create some chaos there to throw you off tilt with your offensive front. Green Bay has to stay disciplined in that way, and they have to execute the big plays and the explosive plays when they're available.
Yeah, and I like what you said about finishing games because we have seen this Packers team in 2025 be very much Jekyll and Hyde when it comes to crunch time. I mean, we saw this team, they execute and convert the massive 4th down at the end of the game in Detroit on Thanksgiving to get a huge win. You go back the week before that, you gotta have it touchdown drive against the Giants late in the fourth quarter. You get it, and then the defense gets the interception to seal the game. That's crunch time play. The first game against the Bears had rallied and tied the game. Jordan Love put together a drive. You go down the field, you get the go-ahead touchdown, and then what do you do on the other end? You get the interception that seals it. That's crunch time football. But by the same token, we've seen this team, blow the multi-score leads late against Cleveland and now against the Bears, where the crunch time execution on both sides of the ball, all 3 phases, if you want to call it that, wasn't there. And this, you mentioned before, and I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but you mentioned before about how this Packers team hasn't been handled by anybody. You look at, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the Packers have only been down by more than 1 score once all season.
That sounds right.
And it was against Arizona on the road, and they actually then were able to come back and win that game because the other largest deficit that they have faced was the 8 points against Denver, which technically is 1 possession because you can get a touchdown on a 2-point conversion to tie the score. So you've only faced 1 multi-score deficit all season, but yet you've let a couple of multi-scored leads late in the game get away, and that's why you're sitting here at 9-5-1 instead of in a better position to win the NFC North and looking at the upper seeds as opposed to just, hey, all right, 1 more win and get a wild card and then see how it falls. So that's kind of where they are.
It's an excellent point, Mike. I look at Green Bay right now as a team that should probably be sitting on 11 wins this season.
Yeah,
but they're not,
so too.
and it is what it is. So, but the other aspect of it too that I look for in this matchup that is just going to be incredible to watch and see exactly how this plays out is every team has dealt with injuries. Every team has dealt with adversity. Talked about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the free fall that they've been on, and now they're behind Carolina after being a team that looked like was going to be not just a division champion, but potentially an NFC favorite. Season takes different courses and different turns, and you have to be able to adjust to that throughout the course of the year. I think Green Bay, by and large, has done a good job of that. All the frustrations are based on what was still left out there for them.
Yes.
And when you think back to last year, and I love that you brought this up, because one of the areas I felt like Green Bay was great in, and then generally speaking, they've been really good in this under Matt LaFleur, but specifically last year, was when Josh Jacobs had that breakout year. Their 4-minute offense was so good. It's probably the best I've ever covered. They could drain the clock with their offense. And this year, they've not been able to do that. They've had too many 3-and-outs in the second half. There's been too many times where there's been a turnover, things of that nature. Green Bay's had to have some hero plays, like the Dontavian Wicks one, to get out of that situation in Detroit.
Yep.
And some gutsy calls from Matt LaFleur, but they haven't been able to drain the clock the same way. That is going to have to change. And regardless of how Josh Jacobs is feeling, if it's not Josh, then it's going to have to be Emmanuel Wilson. The Packers have to find a way to shorten these games. And another huge test lies in front of them in the Baltimore Ravens, because the Ravens are going to be looking to really turn this thing up, I'm guessing.
Yeah, the Ravens have everything on the line in this one on Saturday night. One last thing before we go, just taking a look at the other games that would have some implications related to the Packers as far as Week 17. Starts right away on Thursday on Christmas Day. Detroit is at Minnesota. If Minnesota can actually beat the Lions and give the Lions a third straight loss, the Packers would clinch their playoff spot before they even play on Saturday night.
Yeah.
If the Lions win, then the Packers would still need to get one more win to make the playoffs. But, I mean, this one kind of all hinges on whether J.J. McCarthy plays, or if the Vikings have to turn to Max Brosmer, whose first career start earlier this season in Seattle was about as big a disaster as you know, I think I've seen in the NFL this year, quite frankly. So we'll see what happens there. But give us Packers fans something to root for on Christmas Day. You root for the Vikings to knock off the Lions.
Yeah, my thought on this would be, and if Brosmer plays, I think then Brosmer should play the rest of the year. To be honest with you, I think, I mean, if J.J. McCarthy, like this J.J. McCarthy thing, man, like the ankle injury that took him out for 4 weeks, it's like, okay, are we healthy or are we not healthy?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I get that you're injured, but are you healthy or not healthy? It always comes back to that. So if he doesn't go against the Lions, I think that would be an interesting decision then for him suddenly to play against Green Bay, and what for them wouldn't be a meaningful game. So we'll see exactly how that shakes out. But yeah, it'll be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see how the Lions bounce back, because that was a devastating loss. I don't think I know a lot was made in their locker room afterwards about the 2 OPIs on the final possession, and I joked I wrote this in inbox and I took it out, but it's like I've watched enough Amon-Ra St. Brown football to know that that's offensive pass interference.
Yes.
This is the way the guy plays the position.
Yes.
It is what it is. So he got called on it. You know, again, sometimes you eat the bear, sometimes the bear eats you. It didn't work out. I think the crazy thing about it was the fact that play didn't get blown dead right away. That actually let the possibility happen.
That was the crazy thing to me, is that Carl Scheffer's crew, both of those offensive pass interference calls at the end of the game, they got them right. And the first one, which was on the pick play over on the right side of the field, they had called the Steelers for exactly the same thing, which forced the Steelers earlier in the second half to kick a field goal as opposed to getting a touchdown.
Yes.
So they did call it on the Lions with the game on the line. The Amon-Ra St. Brown shove-off was like as obvious as it gets, and you know the way he plays the game and how we have seen against the Packers, but against other teams as well, at crunch time, he feels like he's just going to get away with it, that they're not going to throw the flag. So he did it again at the goal line. He just shoved the guy out of the way. Credit to Scheffer's crew, they threw the flag. But they completely botched the fact that play should not have been ruled a touchdown that needed to be nullified by the penalty, because my gosh, they had the forward progress was stopped for like 5 seconds,
like 4 yards,
and supposed. I mean, and that's the thing. And again, we don't have time to go off on this big tangent. But as you just said, they shoved him back like 4 yards before he laterals the ball to the quarterback. But if the defender had like slammed him to the ground to make sure the play was over, it's 15 yards, or half the distance, and then they're going to get an untimed down with no time on the clock. I mean, what do the officials want here?
Yep.
Are you going to let the play go, but then you're going to let the play go that shouldn't go, but then if you're making the defense slam the guy on the ground to make sure that the play is over, you're going to flag him for a personal foul. Like, the NFL has got to, and I got to stop, because otherwise I'm going to go off and our producer Hannah is going to say the show is way too long. The NFL has got to get a handle on what they want to do with their officials here. It's getting ridiculous. And that last play of the Lions-Steelers game was as ridiculous as it gets.
Yeah, and it's just to even be in that position, again, it just... there was so much of that game, like, I'm watching. So I promised I was not going to watch that game. I actually said that. I'm like,
I couldn't turn away when I saw the highlight. When I saw the highlight of Kenneth Gainwell making that catch, because I didn't see it live, but when I saw the highlight of Gainwell making that catch on the ground at the end of the first half and getting up and going into the end zone to get the game tied at halftime for the Steelers, I was like, because I was actually at my desk and I was finishing up some work on Sunday, and then I was like, all right, I got to go home and watch the second half now because this game is tied. So I did, and then I just got all worked up about the officiating at the end. So.
And I just, there was something about coming off of that Packers game that it was too raw for me. I mean, if the Lions would have found a way to win that would have been a really hard one to swallow. But the fact is they didn't. The fact is that Aaron Rodgers, Kenneth Gainwell, who I give a lot of credit for. I mean, the way that he has kind of rescued his career and found second life in Pittsburgh, and these games always go down to the wire, it feels like. And in that particular case, the Steelers did the Packers a huge favor, and now we'll find out on Saturday night if the Packers can pay their old friend Aaron Rodgers back as well.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers, who's throwing the ball to Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Adam Thielen, and Scotty Miller to keep the Pittsburgh Steelers
2020 All-Star team,
and with his number one receiver now suspended for 2 games and probably out until a potential playoff game. I want to get your thoughts on a couple other things, and I know we're going really overtime here, but Philadelphia at Buffalo, very interesting game in Week 17. The Eagles, they've already clinched the NFC East, but they're jockeying for the seeding position, and the Buffalo Bills, a real dangerous team, obviously. And then on Sunday Night Football, Chicago at San Francisco. San Francisco, to me, is the most dangerous team right now that nobody's talking about. And if you're from the Packers' perspective, here's the thing. Beat the Ravens on Saturday night, cheer for the Niners to beat the Bears on Sunday night, and the Packers go into Week 18 with a chance to still win the division.
Yeah.
So, that it's one way to look at it.
Yes, you are 100% right. You also are going to have a Detroit Lions team with absolutely nothing to play for in that finale. But you are right. Maybe they can do it for pride.
Dan Campbell would never let a team roll over. I'll just say that.
I know that.
They're banged up as all get out. But
I'm trying to be with you on that one.
Okay.
All right. Because other people have brought this up too. Well, if the Packers win out and the Bears lose out, I'm like, yeah, but by the Packers winning out, that also makes Week 18 meaningless for the Lions. But they've come through before. They did it against the Packers a couple years ago.
They sure did.
But all that being said, this is what we're learning now about the Chicago Bears. They are facing a gauntlet of really strong football teams. And Brock Purdy is healthy again. Brock Purdy was exceptional against Indianapolis. I mean, he was surgical the way that he tore apart that Colts defense. This looks to me, like, again, it's just the way these things go with Kyle Shanahan's teams. Some years they're healthy, some years they're not. But my goodness, when they're healthy and things are clicking, and typically it feels like if it's a odd year, they're off and running. And that West, man, when you look at Seahawks, Rams, 49ers, and it's probably going to take 13 wins to come out with that division title and that number 1 seed. And
the Seahawks and 49ers play each other in the finale in Week 18 too.
It's all to play for.
Go
49ers and see where it takes you.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we covered it all
in a rambling sort of way. This is the rambling episode.
We went off on various tangents. Thanks for hanging with us, folks.
This was not the week thankfully it's Christmas. I'm excited for it, but this was not the week to have to try to compartmentalize everything into one show.
I know.
There's so much stuff that happened.
There's too much. But we managed to get through it.
I never even got around to complaining about how a taunting penalty can help get you thrown out of a game, but if you have 2 roughing the passer penalties in 21 minutes, you're fine.
Right, and I know, and I skipped that part because I wasn't even getting to the officials, and then we started talking about the Lions game, and I got going on the officials again. So
don't do this. You'll be 1 away from a disqualification. But if I throw my forehead into your chin, Michael,
or a forearm shiver into a sliding quarterback,
that's all good.
And 15 yards, but yeah, you're good. You can continue your head hunting.
Player safety, 18 regular season games.
All right. We are going to call it a wrap on this edition of Packers Unscripted. Be sure to follow all of our coverage of Saturday night's big game from Lambeau Field, Packers and Ravens. We will have it all for you on Packers.com. For Wes, I am Mike. Thank you for tuning in, and Merry Christmas, everybody. We will see you next time.